Mama Dee stood in the center of the set like she owned it, her voice already cutting through the chatter of producers, cast, and crew. She wasn't speaking softly. She wasn't whispering. She was calling Britney out loud enough for every MIC to pick it up. You think you can just walk up in here, play wifey to my son, and trap him with a baby? Girl, you not family. You a storyline. The producers exchanged looks but didn't dare interrupt. They knew moments like this were ratings gold. Britney froze for a second, her manicured hand brushing over her still visible bump. Then she turned with a smirk so sharp it could have cut the tension in half. First of all, Mama Dee, nobody's trying to be your little fairytale daughter-in-law. Second of all, I don't need to trap Scrappy. He begged for me. And third, don't act like you're some perfect queen when everybody knows you've ruined every woman he ever loved. Erica, Bambi, Shay, all of them ran from you. Maybe it's you who's the curse, not me. That last sentence hit like a brick. Gasps went around the room. Scrappy sat off to the side in a hoodie, arms crossed, head down, jaw tight. He didn't move, didn't say a word. The silence from him made it worse. It was like he was letting the women fight his battle, like he knew stepping in now would blow everything apart. Mama Dee's eyes lit with fire. She took a step closer, her heels clicking against the floor like gunshots. Don't you dare put my name in the same sentence as them low-down, good-for-nothing heifers. I built my son's name. I protected him when the world turned its back. And I'll be damned if some little girl with a Fashion Nova discount code thinks she gon' rewrite history. You pregnant? So what? Babies don't keep no man. You ain't the first, and you sure won't be the last. Britney laughed, that mocking laugh that made the entire room tighten. And you wonder why he don't even listen to you no more. You old, bitter, and pressed. You want Scrappy to yourself. You don't want him to have no wife, no baby, no future. 'Cause deep down, you can't stand not being the center of his world. That's why you stay chasing cameras. That's why you stay in his business. You not his protector. You his curse. And I promise you, this baby gon' change everything, whether you like it or not. Those words snapped something inside Mama Dee. She lunged forward, shoving past a producer who tried to hold her back. Don't you disrespect me, girl, she screamed, grabbing Britney's arm with a grip so strong the younger woman yelped. The room exploded. Chairs scraped, crew members shouted. Cameras zoomed in. Nobody knew whether to break it up or keep filming. Britney staggered, jerking free, but the shove was harder than it looked. Her heel caught the edge of a rug, and she stumbled back, hitting the side of a chair with her hip. The sound of her scream cut through the chaos. My stomach, she cried, clutching her belly as she doubled over. The entire set froze. Even Mama Dee, still fuming, stepped back in shock. Scrappy shot up so fast his chair toppled. Yo, what the F***, he shouted, rushing to her side. Brit, you good? Somebody call the doctor. Don't just stand there. His voice cracked, a mix of panic and rage, as crew scrambled for phones. The producers, finally realizing this wasn't just drama, swarmed in. A medic was called. Someone grabbed water. A production assistant shouted for cameras to be turned off. The conflict between this is TV and this is real life was written on every face in the room. Britney sobbed, clutching herself, sweat breaking across her forehead. It hurts, she cried, and the sound silenced even the nosiest cast members. The fight had turned into something darker, something nobody could spin as entertainment anymore. Within minutes, producers rushed Britney out toward the waiting vans with Scrappy at her side. Mama Dee was left behind, trembling with rage and shock, muttering under her breath about never meaning to hurt no baby. The rest of the cast whispered in the corners, some pointing fingers, others shaking their heads. By the time the vans pulled off toward the hospital, the story had already leaked. She can't keep controlling, pulling. Everything I do, every woman I'm with, every move I make. And now my child is gone. His words cut through the noise like a blade. He didn't mean to throw his mother under the bus, but the grief was too heavy. The breakdown spread across platforms and suddenly the narrative shifted again. This wasn't just about Britney versus Mama Dee, it was about a son torn between his blood and the family he was trying to build. Fans rallied behind him, urging him to finally break free, to put his mother in the background and stand on his own as a man. The pressure was unbearable and the cameras caught it all. But the storm was far from over. Within days, whispers of a lawsuit began swirling. Britney's family had hired an attorney and papers were reportedly being drafted to hold Mama Dee legally responsible for wrongful death. The miscarriage wasn't just a tragedy anymore, it was about to become a courtroom battle. VH1 braced itself for subpoenas. Scrappy braced himself for depositions. And Mama Dee doubled down, swearing she would never step foot in a courtroom as a defendant. Yet deep down, everyone knew it was only a matter of time before lawyers, judges, and juries got involved. And when that happened, reality TV would no longer control the narrative. The law would. The stage was set for a war no producer could script, no editor could shape, and no cast member could escape. What started as a family argument on camera had spiraled into something darker, something irreversible. As the dust settled over the hospital parking lot, and the internet kept spinning, one truth remained clear. This was no longer just a storyline. It was a tragedy that would haunt every name tied to it. The hospital smelled like lemon cleanser and unanswered questions. Britney stared at the clock above the television, counting seconds the way people count debts, knowing they can't be repaid. The nurse had dimmed the lights and left a plastic cup of water on the tray, the way nurses do when there's nothing else to say. Rhea sat curled in the visitor chair, shoes off, hoodie up, a soft human shield against the cold of the room. Every so often, Rhea would reach over and squeeze Britney's fingers, and Britney would squeeze back as if they were sending secret messages through the bones. "I'm here. I'm here." Down the hall, Scrappy met with a hospital social worker whose voice was kind but careful. "Grief doesn't obey the camera's schedule," she said, handing him a list of counselors who specialized in perinatal loss. He nodded, not trusting his mouth to shape the words he needed. He signed a release to limit information shared with media, then pressed his thumb to his phone to scroll a feed he didn't want to see. Accusations, consolations, strangers praying in his comments, strangers cursing in his DMs. He typed and erased 3 different statements. The only thing he finally sent was to Imani, "I love you. I'll call as soon as I can." Her reply came fast, "I'm okay. You okay?" He stared at "you okay" until the words lost shape. Outside, security had put up a rope line, but it only turned the sidewalk into a stage. A woman held a handmade sign, "Protect Black Mothers." A man across the street muttered that people should mind their business. The city, always quick to choose a side, split like wet wood, half heat, half smoke. Mama Dee hadn't slept. She sat at her kitchen table in a robe and earrings, the contradiction of a woman ready for war and a woman afraid to leave the house. Her phone lit up with missed calls, producers, cousins, a pastor from a church she visited twice. A text from a number she didn't recognize said, "I hope you rot." Another, 3 bubbles later, "I'm praying for you." She poured coffee and didn't drink it. She practiced an apology in the microwave door and hated the way it sounded. She dialed Scrappy and hung up before it rang. She dialed again and this time it connected. "Mama Dee, baby." Scrappy, "Not right now, Ma." Silence. She swallowed, pride burning like a swallowed match. "Mama Dee, I didn't mean." Scrappy, "Not right now." The line clicked. She stared at her reflection, saw a queen without a kingdom, and closed her eyes like maybe the dark could give her back the right words. By noon, VH1 Legal had sent the first set of emails with more bold than verbs. Hold. Do not distribute. Potential liability. Counsel review. A junior producer slid into a conference room seat and tried to vanish. An executive clicked play on the raw multicam angle and then paused on the exact frame the shove became a fall. "Can we blur this?" somebody asked, like pixels could wash it away. "We can't blur grief," the head of standards said. For a full minute no one spoke. Online, a different war started. #Stand with Britney trended alongside #Hold Mama Dee accountable. One collective posted a thread about stress and pregnancy, about how words can bruise, how public humiliation is a toxin. A podcaster countered with intent and accident and personal responsibility. It didn't matter. The feed had already chosen the shape of the story. A mother's rage. A woman's loss. A man stuck between a bloodline and a future that crumbled in his hands. In the afternoon, a hospital chaplain knocked and asked Britney if she wanted a moment of prayer, or silence, or both. She picked silence, and the chaplain honored it, sitting without speaking for 6 slow minutes that felt like a blanket. When the chaplain left, Britney finally turned to Rhea. "Britney, what am I supposed to be now?" Rhea, alive. And then whatever comes next. Back at the house, Imani wrote a note and didn't send it. "Grown-ups keep telling me to stay out of it, but it keeps walking into the room anyway." She pulled on her hoodie and took a long walk around the block, counting cracks in the sidewalk like verses. A neighbor waved. She waved back. Sometimes surviving is just walking slow enough that your heart can catch up. By evening, Scrappy asked a nurse to wheel him to the chapel because he didn't trust his legs. He sat in the back row and breathed with the air conditioner. There's a way men cry when they are alone that television cannot hold and language cannot name. When he finished, he wiped his face with the sleeve of his hoodie and whispered, "I'm sorry," to the rafters, to the empty seat beside him, to the timeline he would never get back. A push alert went out at 7:42 p.m. Britney issues statement from hospital. The text was short, not crafted by a team, written in the voice of someone who just wanted the noise to stop. "I lost my baby. I need time to heal. Please respect my space and stop tagging me in the video." She turned her phone face down and asked the nurse if the hallway lights always hummed like that. "Only when they are tired," the nurse said. Britney nodded, like lights could be tired, and so could she. The next morning, Mama Dee tried to visit. Security checked the list and shook his head. "Family only," he said, not unkindly. "I am his family," she answered. "I mean hers," he clarified. She looked at the floor and for a second she wasn't loud or legendary. She was just somebody's mother who had run out of places to stand. She went home and sat with an old photo album, the kind with plastic pages that crackle, and stared at pictures of Scrappy with cake on his face. "I did everything wrong and everything right," she told the album. "And I don't know which is which today." Her phone rang. Attorney, unknown number. She answered and held the receiver like it might bite. "We'd like to discuss potential exposure." "I needed you not to touch me. Needed you not to touch me." Mama Dee's hands flinched, wanting a podium she didn't have. "I never meant," she started. "The mediator. Intention and impact are different rooms. We have to walk through both." Mama Dee exhaled. "I didn't mean to hurt no baby," she said. "I was trying to scare you away from my son. That's the truth. I ain't proud of it. I didn't think my hands could do that much wrong." Her voice cracked around the last word. She reached for the tissue box and missed. Scrappy finally spoke. "I need both of y'all to hear me," he said, leaning into the table. "I'm not nobody's storyline no more. If we gon' do family, it got to stop being a show first." He turned to his mother. "Ma, I love you. You raised me through hell." Then he turned to Britney. "I loved what we was trying to build, but I can't rebuild a house while it's still on fire." It wasn't a resolution. It was a marker on a map. We were here. Outside. The air tasted like rain. A producer waiting by the elevator looked up from his phone. "We can cover the counseling if you want," he offered to Scrappy, like guilt could be itemized. "I'll handle it," Scrappy said, and kept walking. A week later, court. Not a trial, not yet, but a request for a protective order and a schedule of no-contact boundaries. The judge, a woman whose patience looked like granite, listened to 3 versions of the same moment. She made no speeches. She granted the order with the pragmatism of a surgeon stitching skin. No in-person contact without counsel present. No social media commentary about the other parties. No approach within 300 feet on set, offset, or in any public venue. Violations will be met with contempt. The gavel kissed the wood. No applause, no gasps, just the shuffle of consequences. VH1 drafted a chyron for the episode that would inevitably air. The following footage depicts conflict that escalated beyond our safety protocols. Viewer discretion is advised. The standards team pushed for a black screen and a content warning. Marketing pushed for a trailer. Legal pushed for redactions that made the scene feel like a confession under a heavy marker. In the end, they split the difference: a title card, muted audio at the peak, a cut to aftermath, a hotline at the end. It satisfied nobody and protected everybody just enough. An editor sat in a dark bay at 2:11 a.m., looping the 2 seconds before the fall, asking himself if there was a cut that turned regret into lesson. There wasn't. He walked to the vending machine, bought peanut M&Ms, came back, and cut to Imani's earlier confession instead. "I'm allowed to be a kid." He let the sentence land. He let the music breathe. Sometimes the most responsible thing you can do is point your camera at the person who didn't want to be there in the first place. The memorial wasn't announced. Britney and Rhea drove to a quiet river with 2 paper lanterns and a small bunch of wildflowers. Scrappy parked 2 cars back and waited until they were done, then walked down alone with a folded note in his pocket. Britney didn't turn around when she heard his footsteps. She knew the sound of his shoes. They stood shoulder to shoulder without speaking and watched a leaf spin in place where the water stopped arguing with the rocks. "Scrappy, I wrote something," he said, holding the paper like it was hot. "I ain't going to read it out loud. Just," he set it under a smooth stone. "Britney, okay." They watched two boys run past chasing a soccer ball, the sound of their laughter proof that noise could be holy. When it got cold, Britney pulled her sweater tighter. Rhea returned from the car with a thermos, poured tea into paper cups. They drank like strangers at a bus stop.